Hi, my name is John Park from Qlik Partner Engineering. This video will go through a tutorial of Qlik data integration with Databricks. Qlik data integration is a suite of tools from Qlik Opportunity Acquisition that allows customers to acquire and ingest data in real time and create managed data lakes. Today we'll focus on our partnership with Databricks and demonstrate our capabilities. Using Databricks and Qlik Data Integration Suite, enterprises can easily leverage Databricks machine learning and AI capabilities on data that is continuously refreshed. In today's demo, we'll review the following three things. Overview of Databricks and Qlik data integration setup. Qlik Replicate, performing change data capture from MySQL database to Azure Databricks on a continuous basis. We'll configure a real-time replicate task where changes are trickled into Azure Databricks. Qlik Compose, creating a managed data lake experience using data landed via Qlik Replicate. Qlik Compose will create managed tables on Delta Lake. Qlik and Databricks together can make many possible analytics use cases using latest integrations. For our demo, we want to start off with Microsoft Azure Portal. As you can see, I have an Azure Databricks service configured. I'm going to launch the workspace. Make sure I have a cluster created that is ready to go. And in that cluster, I want to make sure advanced settings, Spark enable do as false is configured, as well as the JDBC ODBC connection strings are configured. We'll also need to configure a token for us to get secure access. So this is an API token that you could use to securely access inside Azure Databricks. In the Azure aspect, we will need to configure a storage account. Here I see you have a storage account created. In there you'll see containers, and inside those containers you'll see folders. These folders are actually mounted as file systems for Databricks to use, and as well as Qlik Data Integration Suite. Replicate and Compose to use land data, process data, and write data for access. Qlik Replicate is a CDC and streaming data tool. Qlik's tool is an enterprise grade which allows you to take real-time data and stream it into whatever endpoint you need it to. In our Replicate demo, we'll take the data from MySQL and stream it into Azure Databricks. For this demo, we've went and downloaded a data set from SeanLemon.com, which is a sabermetric baseball data set, and we've loaded it into MySQL, and we created a replicate task process. So it is running right now. As you can see, we're going to double click on it, and we can see that it actually picked up the tables and actually moved from MySQL all the way up to Azure Databricks. And you can see this by the movement here. Being blue, the connections are good and the data is moving. Another thing we're going to make sure is when you hit manage endpoint connections, you could actually test your connections here. We're going to test, make sure MySQL is good to go. And we're also going to make sure Azure is good to go. All the documentation how this tutorial was created is listed on GitHub that I'll reference later. Once done, we could actually go into Replicate demo and run a set of queries. So we can see that I ran in replicate staging how many sets of data are we here for all-star full number of people. There's 19,000 players in this record, and there's 2,925 teams. Let's just do a quick check and make sure that it is fine from MySQL Workbench. We're going to run people, and we're going to run a quick count here. $19,878. It does verify. And let's go back to screen, and it says people is 19878. So what we're going to do now is take a set of query and actually execute and see the CDC working. What I'm going to do is actually insert into the people my own name. So let's go back to MySQL, and this is pretty instantaneous, but what you're going to see is I'm going to insert into the people database John Park. Before that, we knew we had 19,878, and I'm going to actually run an insert here, and it did insert. Let's go into, actually I want to do a count again to show you that it was inserted. It's a database. So one more record there. Let's go into replicate and make sure they got data loaded. So we're going to go to replicate, and we are going to see if change process picked up anything. So this people, there was one insert, so it did pick it up. Now we're going to go into Azure Databricks, and usually it shows up as first record, so this is actually better. So let's see, John Park is actually showing up. Okay, so we verified that CDC worked, and this is how replicate works. So you create your initial jobs and you let the jobs run, and it will pick up changes from the logs. For this demo, we'll create a managed data lake from the data loaded from Qlik replicate. In the last demo, you saw Qlik replicate load baseball data from MySQL into Azure Databricks. From that point, what Qlik Compose will do is use the metadata and continuously update the data into a managed data lake. As you can see on this diagram, Qlik Compose is an integration platform that creates managed data lake. It generates a ETL or ELT routine from the metadata that is on the platform. So in this case, Databricks is the engine that is running the ETL or tasks that will generate the managed data lake. Let's take a look. When you open Qlik Compose, it's project-based. So this project is created for Databricks, and on that project, we can see there are multiple things that are already preloaded. There are two terminologies, landing and storage zones for Qlik Compose. On this project, we can see there are multiple things that are preloaded. Landing and storage are terms used in Compose represent the area where data is continuously delivered, and storage is an area where managed data lakes are created. We can see when we actually go into the connections menu that we actually loaded the data from a MySQL to Azure Databricks task that was created by replicate. So replicate was, if we could test, there we go, we could test that, make sure that process is loaded and it's doing the full load and change tables. And then Databricks storage, we can see it's Databricks Delta and all the tokens and ports or things configured. All right, we checked landing and storage connections. How replicate works is, how Compose works is by using metadata. When we tap the metadata button on storage zones, we can see that it will discover the metadata in the landing area. So if we do search, we can see all the tables that were created by replicate. And we pick up the tables we needed, and we, just like replicate, and then from those tables, it generates another metadata view. So I don't want to go through this again, but you can see here we picked up batting, people, pitching, and teams. One of the things that we could do is just change the metadata and remove columns. And here I removed the column ID and a couple more columns and renamed so it'd be easier for the end users who are creating analytics to see this. We could also do lookups and simple transformations. I'm going to validate this metadata. And then I want to see the data storage tasks. So what data storage tasks are ETL or ELT code generated that are generated by the metadata from the landing and the storage tables that are created. We could see there is a storage full and storage change. There's a task command. And we can see that the tasks are represented here. And there are 130 process steps for loading batting, people, pitching, and teams. And I'm actually going to execute this just to see this execute through. So here we loaded 4 tables from replicate to the landing zone, and landing zone we made a the compose took those 4 tables, made a managed data lake and moved it over. Close this out, and if I go to monitor, it shows me the runs that was completed. So how long it took, what it did, etc., etc. And actually go into data and go to compose production. You see the 4 tables, and if you go to batting, you see the names, metadata names change, right? Now we'll go back to Databricks. Sample data will refresh. All right. So this was a quick review of compose, taking data from replicate and creating a managed data lake. Here are other resources that you could use to continue on with your Qlik data integration and Azure Databricks integration. We have a rich set of capabilities making sure your data is delivered on time and managed data lakes are created.